Hi, this is Bill. I'm the salty old Marine. Let's talk about common VA disability claims. Kind of interesting, I looked this up today. The top 10 most common VA disability ratings and their approval rates. This is kind of interesting, so let's dig in. The first one I would have guessed. It's tinnitus, the constant ringing in the ears. Of veterans who file for disability, 30% of them claim tinnitus. It is 93% approval rating. It is by far the easiest claim to win. Now, we talked about this in a previous video. Just because you win a claim doesn't mean you get a big disability check. Tinnitus is a case in point. There's only two ratings for tinnitus, 0 and 10%. 0% is if you have tinnitus, but it's not constant. 10% is if it is constant. And by the way, for those veterans who filed for tinnitus and got a 0%, that's why. That's why. You probably should file for increased severity and say that it is constant, because it probably is constant, I would suspect. I have never heard of somebody who has tinnitus that isn't constant. What happens more often, I think, is people who have tinnitus learn to ignore it at times. And so they might say it's intermittent. Unless it's bothering them, they don't notice it. That doesn't mean it's intermittent. If it's always there, whether you notice it or not, it's constant. Anyway, separate topic. Tinnitus, number one disability claimed at 30%. Number two is hearing loss. The approval rate for hearing loss is 60 to 70%, and 15% of veterans who claim disability claim this. It's a little harder to prove. It's done with an audio test, when they put you in a booth and you press the button. But it's really hard to get a disability rating out of hearing loss. I have a disability rating for my left ear for hearing loss, but it's 0%. From what I understand, you have to be darn near deaf to get any kind of a actual rating out of hearing loss. But it is the second most claimed disability. The third is PTSD. It's claimed by 12% of veterans who claim a disability. The approval rate is 50 to 65%. The next is knee conditions. Knee conditions include things like osteoarthritis, strains, and ACL tears. 10% of veterans who claim disability claim knee conditions. It is, however, 80 to 90% approval rating if it's service-connected. So in other words, if you injured your knees jumping out of planes and you can prove that happened during your time in the service, the approval rating for that is 80 to 90%. So you might want to think about that if you've got bad knees and it was caused by your military service. Next one down, I wouldn't have suspected to be so high in the list, but it's scars. Scars include things like surgical injury, burns, and so on. We're going to do a separate video on that. But 10% of veterans who file disability claim scars, and it is one of the easiest to prove at 95% approval, mainly because scars are what they are. They're visible, right? You can see a scar. And really what the rating on is how it impacts your daily life, as we've talked about before. So again, if you have scars and you file a claim, they're one of the easiest ones to actually prove, to get it approved, I should say. The next is lower back pain, degenerative disc disease, strains, and herniated discs. 8% of veterans who file disability claim this, and it's 60 to 75% approval. The next is sciatica nerve conditions such as radiculopathy, neuropathy, paralysis of the sciatic nerve. 7% of veterans claim this, and it is 60 to 80% approval rating. The next down, and I'm surprised it's this low, to be honest, is migraines and TBI, or traumatic brain injury, and those related headaches. 6%, only 6% of veterans claim this. It has a 50 to 70% approval rating. It does need to be documented, and the percentage of disability depends heavily on the frequency and the severity of the migraines. In other words, how badly do they knock you out, and how often do you get them? But they're, at least a 50% approval rating, if not higher. So if you have migraines or a traumatic brain injury caused by your time in the service, that might be a disability that you would be interested in pursuing. The next is, and again, I'm really surprised it's as low as it is on the ratings out of the top 10. Number 9 is sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is, of course, when you stop breathing in the middle of the night. It's usually related to heavy snoring and things like that. If you actually stop breathing for a period of time, usually a couple of seconds, that is sleep apnea. And normally it is linked to things like PTSD, obesity, Gulf War exposure. If it's Gulf War exposure, it's probably covered under the PACT Act, meaning it's a presumptive. You don't have to prove the nexus. You just have to have been in service during the Gulf War, during a time when you would have been exposed to things like burn pits and that sort of thing that could cause sleep apnea. For sleep apnea, you need to have a diagnosis, meaning a sleep study that diagnosed you with sleep apnea, and you need to be prescribed for a CPAP machine. That has a 40 to 60% approval rating, and it's claimed by only 6% of veterans who file disability claims. The last one is number 10 is ankle and foot conditions. That includes plantar fasciitis, Achilles tendonitis, and flat feet. And only 5% of veterans who claim a disability claim the ankle and foot conditions. However, interestingly enough, it has a 70 to 85% approval rating. So if you have those conditions and they were caused by your military service, pretty good chance you'll be able to get those approved for a disability rating. Excuse me. So those are the top 10. I hope you found that interesting. Hang on. Sorry. Hope you found that interesting. My name is Bill. I'm the Salty Old Marine. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like. What do you want to see more or less of? And as always, have a great day.